Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today is our third part of our home building series with our very own Ashley McVicker. So she is here today to give us an update on what's going on now in the new year with her house, because it's been a process. I know.
Yeah.
Ashley, I'm excited to hear all about it.
We got a lot to talk about, Jill.
We do. But I want to first kind of go back to where we left off, because we had Polly in here in our last episode and we were interviewing her about what you guys were doing as far as financing for your home.
Yeah, and getting my construction loan going.
Okay.
So
what's happened since then? I mean, I feel like so much.
Yeah. So where we left off was, I think I had just got my property graded, my footings in the ground, and I had got my termite treatment sprayed on the dirt and the blocks. And so that's where I was. That's where we left off in my last episode. And I've made a lot of progress since then.
I'm so excited to hear about it.
Yeah. So, and just a lot has happened with my construction loan, just like utilizing that. And so I'm excited to just talk all about it. It's been a whirlwind. Whirlwind. Well, yeah. I can't say that word. It's just been, I mean, you've seen me and you know, but it's just like some days are like super emotional for me about it. And I hate to be that way, but it's just like when it's your money and you're dealing with it and you think something's going to cost a certain price and then it doesn't, you know, and then some days things are cheaper than others are, you know, so a lot of that has been my emotional state lately, but it's been great.
I have to ask you, so when you were getting all of these bids, that was on our first episode, you were talking about all your bids. Mm-hmm. What has it been like since seeing those bids, what you thought you were paying, and what it has actually cost you? Yeah. I mean, is a bid an even relative to what you're spending, or are you finding that just to be not even close to what you're...
For the most part, I would say my bids are like my labor bids. So you get material bids and you get labor bids.
Okay.
A lot of my labor bids are whatever they quoted me back in May of this year, like that's still their labor price.
So labor has remained the same for the most part.
For the most part, yes. They're staying true to what they bid me. Now, you know, they may increase their labor prices next year. Like I don't know how that works, how they quantify their labor, but material prices have definitely been the very volatile thing in my budget sheet.
Okay.
So it was kind of like when I first started building, this episode might be all over the place, but I was getting some bills back just even for my lumber and stuff. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. I
mean, you have to pay very close attention to that stuff, because I was getting bills that I was like, this is not the price that you bid me. And I based a lot of my stuff, including my loan and how much I needed to take off of these numbers. So what's going on?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of sometimes like a little fight about materials.
Right.
You know, are you going to stick to your price that you actually gave me and I gave to my bank that I told you were going to, and then you're upping me 30%? That's happened on a few things, which is very unfortunate, but
so you're finding that the materials have been the big variable, that's changed since when you first got your bids.
Big variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me what's happened. What has been the process?
Yeah. So I'll just walk you through it, which is really exciting. So, I think, the Friday after we got off that episode, they poured my house slab. So my house is on a slab. So you can either put your house on a crawl space or a slab. Most people are doing slabs now, which just means they're doing concrete. Oh, I'm so sorry. I do this every time. I forget you have to put plumbing inside the concrete and rock. Let me back.
Okay.
So they do plumbing. So I got all of my plumbing under my rock in, and then they pour your rock in, and then they pour your slab on your concrete.
Okay.
And so, right there is just like a big chunk of change, and it's just your foundation of your house, but super important. So once that was done, do you just want me to kind of go through and just...
Yeah, I want to hear all the steps.
All the steps,
and maybe
and then we can
if you thought bids, where you were at, that was way more than I thought it would be. Okay. Or that so I really think it's important to know these are the materials that change...
Yeah.
As you're in the home buying process and what you can do to kind of avoid that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So rock and my dad's labor for that was not that expensive. But, you know, rock was, I just wasn't expecting that price because my parents were dealing with it. So like I didn't have it in my budget sheet, but like maybe somebody else would recognize that they would have to put rock in their foundation before they put their slab on. My slab, concrete prices had increased a little bit when I got my slab poured, but I was expecting that price. Thankfully, right after my slab got poured, like a couple months after, they sent a piece of mail to like a lot of their customers, which one of them was my parents, just doing business with them, and said that they were increasing their prices. Just, you know.
So you actually had notice for that. So that's good.
Yeah. Thankfully mine was poured before that increase in their prices and we did the math and it was going to be at least like, I don't know, maybe $2,000 more for me
for a slab.
And I'm telling you, $500 matters when you're on a budget because I am. Home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was grateful for that. So, got the slab poured. That takes not very long to dry. No. I mean, we were walking on it within 24, 48 hours. So that was kind of funny waiting around then to get my framing done. So that's the next thing that goes on. So pour your slab and then they start building. They start framing it up, which is like the most exciting part.
That's when you see progress the most. I feel like the slab is there. You look at it, and I think you said in the last episode, you're like, this is tiny. I'm going to cry because it's tiny. And then your framing went in.
Yeah. So the concrete made it look a little bit bigger. So on the last episode, if you didn't listen to it, when they lay your house out, they basically like spray paint what it's going to look like. And then that's where they dig for the footings. Well, when that happened, I was like bawling to my dad and I was like,
this is too small.
This is a shoebox. I can't live here. And then other people told me like, that's what happens to them. Well, then they pour your concrete. So you kind of see a better outline, but you're still like, you're walking around and you're just like, this feels like a very small tennis court. I don't know.
Yeah. And then when the frame goes in, you're like, this is the room. This is where I'm going to
And then when the framing gets put up, it feels... You're in shock. I mean, I came home from work one day and my house was built. Yeah. Like it goes up so fast. These guys do it so fast. So, oh my gosh, that was crazy. That was probably the most fun process was seeing the frame. Yeah. And so, you know, they put your frame on. So they put, you know, your 2x4, your 2x6s up, and then, they have to order your trusses after that. So they have to come out, measure, because these trusses are expensive. It's, you know, the triangle, the thing that makes your roof.
What holds your house up, essentially.
Well, it's very, I mean, it has to be 2AT measured. They got to get it right. Mm-hmm. So they measured for my trusses. So I had to wait actually like a month to get my trusses on. So nothing was really happening with my house.
And how did that make you feel, Ashley?
I hated it. I felt like I just had this, because it's really just a box of this wall. But when my trusses came in a month later, they got set with a crane, which was another expense that I wasn't expecting. It's $300. I mean, it took them 2 hours to do my house. It's like $150 an hour to rent a crane. But like, you know, I always like $300 here and there adds up to $1,000, you know? So that was an expense that wasn't within my bid, but I mean, it's okay. Have to pay it.
What about the framing and the lumber and the trusses itself? Was that pretty on, you know, point to what you had been bid, or was that way higher?
My lumber was not.
Okay. Lumber, what happened?
I don't know. Lumber fluctuates, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that was probably my steepest increase in my pricing was my lumber.
Okay. Are you talking thousands of dollars?
I'm talking like it would go from a $9 2x4 to 15. And when you have 200 of those, do the math, makes you sick. But then, you know, what you'll find on a construction site is your contractor will order these pieces of lumber, and then 50 of them, they send them back and you get a credit on your account. So it was a lot of like buying more than they needed, and it would freak me out because I would get the bill. I'd be at work and I'd be like, Jill, I just got another bill. Yeah. And then I'd get a credit like the next day for, you know, half of that money. And so it was just weird. it was kind of hard to keep track of that. I think I do a good job at keeping track of all my stuff, but that was like way out of my control. I just didn't know what was going on. You get so many during the framing part, you get so many state invoices that you don't know what half these line items mean. And also this is another thing, like this was probably a couple $1,000s in prices, but like I based a lot of my house off of a full material bid from a store. Yeah. But they didn't, put in these certain type of nails.
Right. That you need.
That I need. That ultimately probably cost $500.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much stuff like that, like these little building things, that they don't think to necessarily put them in your bid. It's not their fault. I think sometimes they just don't know if the contractor is going to use those. And also they don't want to make their bid look, higher by throwing another $500 box of nails on there. It's just weird. So it was like a lot of little costs like that with the building.
But that's so interesting to know, because I wouldn't even think when you're getting a bid to which nails that you should bid. But now you know that you could probably write a whole book, Ashley, on what you need to build on.
Yes.
So then after your framing was up, you had your trusses set. What happened next?
Yeah. So after they frame your house, so they put your 2x4s in, 2x6, and then they put your trusses on. Now they're ready to close your house in. So they're either going to do an OSB board, which is like that chipped kind of pressed look of that board put up against your house with a piece of tarp over. That's kind of the old way, the cheaper way. It's not a bad way. It's just there's new and improved construction. And so,
probably more energy efficient ways, probably.
Yes, absolutely. And so what I actually got my house wrapped in, which is, it's called a zip system. And so it's OSB board, but it's already lined. Instead of having to put the tarping over, it's like this sprayed on material that's very energy efficient. And then they tape these pieces together.
So it sounds like it seals everything in from there.
It's very sealed. I was shocked at the prices. I was bid something. The cost increase of that went up 30%.
Ooh, okay.
That was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. So now your lumber's more expensive, your zip system's more expensive.
Yeah.
But the zip system, I mean, if you don't have that, the old way is kind of, I wouldn't go back. If you were to skimp on one thing, sealing your house off would not be the thing to skimp on.
No, it's not. Yeah. And, that's kind of what I've been learning through this process, kind of like insurance, like we just talked about, like, oh, you're mad because you have to pay a higher premium, something up front. But the latter, or like, if you don't do that, you're probably going to be paying more after the fact, and it's not going to be. Right. So, and what I mean by that in terms of the house is, if I don't get the best energy efficient now and spend X amount of $1,000s more now, my energy bill might be double if I don't do this. And over time, and so that's why you have to look at, like, how long are you living in the house? Like, that's why people ask you those questions, because they're like, this is how much it's going to take to recoup this money that you've, invested up front. But if you live here after 5 years, I mean, you paid for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a zip system on my house. That was and then the tape costs money. Like, and all that was actually in my bid, but it just ended up being higher. A lot of my building materials for the shell of my home, I guess you could say, were
a lot higher.
A lot higher.
Okay. And as you're paying for this, how does it work with your construction loan? Because by now you've gotten your lumber, your trusses, like there's a lot of things that you're paying for. So how does this work with your construction loan?
Yes. So when I started building my house, I saved money and I started paying I had like a set dollar amount to pay out of pocket just up front instead of kicking into my loan, because, if you don't know this about a loan, like, you start a construction loan and they give you money, and then every month you pay interest on that money.
On the amount you've
borrowed.
Yeah.
So the more you've borrowed, the more money you owe on interest to the bank every month. So, when Polly opened up my construction loan, my closing costs were automatically put onto that.
Yes.
And so, which means I already owed interest. At that point, it was $10.
Right.
Well, when you start adding, when you get to $30,000, you know,
you're paying interest on $30,000.
You're paying $150 to the bank. You know, I'm giving rough numbers, but it's kind of funny to watch you put this money on your loan.
Yes.
And then you're having to pay back a little interest.
And so what's so hard about a construction loan that people don't realize, I've had a construction loan too, and you're not paying down the loan at all. So you're not getting you're not accumulating equity in the home yet. Like this is just an interest payment. You're paying the bank for them allowing you to use this money. So until you refinance into permanent financing, you're just paying interest on something you essentially
the bank. I'm
will
not
never
paying any
lower that principal.
I'm not paying any equity into my home, Jill. Yeah, exactly that. So that's like kind of your incentive to
get the house done.
Because you're like, I'm tired of spending $500 a month on what feels like nothing. Now you are paying somebody, thank you so much for letting me borrow thousands of dollars to build my house, but now you're wanting to pay it back when you get into permanent.
And so I'm thinking this month that you were sitting around waiting for these trusses, it's a big deal because that's one whole month that no further movement is happening on your home. You're not getting closer to the finish line. And so I think you can speak to this more than I can, but it is so important to have your next trade lined up and ready to go.
It's so important. And I'm running into that a lot right now just because it's like, I think it's even harder in the wintertime.
Yes.
It's just hard. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's like hard to get people to work, but like they have other jobs too. It's cold out. Like I need things done on the outside. I don't know if they're charging me more because it's the dead of winter.
Right.
I don't know. I think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, having people, I've just never done it before. I've never built a house. So I didn't know that when Bob is done, you don't call the next guy when Bob is done. You call the guy a week before Bob is done and say, Bob's going to be done this week. But it's so much easier said than done. You don't know half the time. I've had contractors say, I'm going to be there this day. I'm going to be there this day. No, I'm going to be there this day. And they're not there.
Yeah.
And so then you're rearranging your other schedule and it's just.
Yeah, it sounds like pretty complex when it comes to scheduling.
Puzzle.
Yeah, it sounds like you need a project, like as a project manager, like it's good to have a timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And I just, I didn't know what came when.
Right.
And so I didn't know who to call. And so we've kind of just been this whole process. Like once one contractor's done, I'm like, who do I call next?
Yes.
I just ask them. Which has been so great.
Good that you can ask them because the tradespeople know. So
they know it all.
So what came next? So your zip system is up. What was the next step, Ashley?
Yeah. So my
because this is kind of giving people a leg up to know what comes next in the process.
Yeah. So your house is your roof is on, your walls are up, your zip is on. So now they're going to ask you, your framer, if they're installing your doors and windows, which you needed to order 3 months ago or 2 months ago. Let's just remember that, that's the one thing I did right. I ordered my windows back in September. I was like, I got to get these windows ordered and get put in for like 3 months, but that's okay.
Yeah.
My framer asked me, he said, do you want us to put in the windows and doors before or after your shingles get put on? And I'm like, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah.
And he's like, mostly we do it, we'll wait till after the roofers come in and do your shingles, because in case for some reason if we had put your windows in and they jump off the roof and kick their foot through your window, like
or
you
drop something on your glass.
Drop something on it, like you don't want that. So they did my roofing, my shingles on, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
And that actually ended up being less
expensive than what your bid was.
Yeah. And I had a great roofer. Like he was all like, and it's so crazy how fast like that'll go on too. And it looks good. It makes the house look like entirely different.
Yes.
So after the roof is on, then you can call your framer back and say, I'm ready for my windows and doors to be installed.
Okay.
And then they'll put that in, and then wow, it really starts to look like a house, and it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. Also, I will say, like, make sure if you are building it, everything is right, and like whatever you're signing off on, because like my door jambs, I signed off and I ordered my doors, and I mean my signature was on it. But thankfully, the company that I bought my doors through, they were like, we ordered your wrong door jamb size, whatever the heck a door jamb is. They've been trying to explain it to me, all the boys. So funny. And thankfully they ate the price and just reordered my doors and expedited them. But I mean, that was kind of like a little hiccup.
Well, and also with your framing, you spoke about one thing too, is the window placement. So when they're doing these things, I know like your window in your bathroom, didn't you have them move the window or lower it or something like that?
Yeah,
like they
so my house plan, I mean, your house plan is going to specifically lay out where everything is. I mean, an architect does it. And I had my windows like regular window height. Like I have a bathroom window and then I have a laundry room window on the back side of my home. And I was looking and they were like really high up. And I was like, I don't think this is right, but maybe it is. I don't know. And I kind of just like was like, whatever, it's fine. Well, then me and my mom were looking at my house plan. And she's like, this isn't right. Like this needs to be redone. And I was like, so stressed. I was like, but I told my builder, I was like, can you please drop this window? And he's like, yeah, sorry. We just put them up because that's what people are requesting now. I just assumed you wanted it.
Okay.
And I understand that to an extent, but it wasn't. So just make sure you're checking on your house if you're building
to make
it
sure things are in the right place that you wanted it when you were doing your plans. And I think that's important.
Yeah. I think it's funny though, like to speak about like your framing and stuff, like just because it's completely built, I mean, you can change some things. Like I had some little walls built like in my laundry room, some pop out walls. Like I had a whole closet built that wasn't in my plan. Yeah. That stuff is so easy for them to do. I mean, they'll do it in 2 seconds. So like, yeah, sure.
And I think it's also important to have those conversations with your builders though, when they're doing it, instead of having to have them come back another time. I mean, there's always, it's always more difficult to get the contractors back to your home. After they're so busy. You don't want them to leave and then say, oh, I actually wanted a closet here. Yeah. Like for them to come back, it's a big deal. So I feel like you ran into that a little bit.
They're super busy. But I mean, that's been a lot.
So windows are in. What's next?
Windows and doors were in. And then the next thing that had to get put in was, and actually it might have been before my doors got put in, but I don't think so, was my bathtubs. How random.
Bathtubs need to be set early.
Yes, and my plumber is so good. Like he has been my best friend, just calling me like, you need to let me know when your house is framed because I'm coming in and put, are your bathtubs ordered? Like he was on me, and I need that, someone to tell me, because I didn't realize it took 3 weeks to get a bathtub in.
Yeah, I didn't know that
Had
either.
like a big deal with that, contacting the people where I bought my bathtubs from. And so your bathtubs like get put in and get drilled into your framing.
Wow. And
then they do drywall and insulation over that. Like it's super weird what your bathtub actually looks like
before it's a bathroom.
Yeah. So that was next. So my bathtubs and then all my indoor plumbing. So just all of it. And it's crazy how it goes up the walls and out your roof. Like I had no idea that plumbing.
That's your vent. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know any of this stuff. I've never seen the inside of a wall. So once the house kind of gets in the dry is what that's called.
Okay. So once it's zipped, it's kind of in the dry.
Once it's zipped and you get your roofing on and your windows and doors and it's in the dry.
Okay. I want to talk about your garage because that was another process, right? I feel like you ran into a little bit of a...
We're still processing the garage.
Yeah. So what happened there? Because that's important too.
What's
the doors? Like before you could put the door, you can't just put the doors in at the same time.
So my windows and doors were put in, but then I forgot, I didn't know how hard it was to put a garage door up or like how long it took them to order. So I had to, that's a whole nother subcontractor. It's just a garage door guy. So you have to have him come out. He has to just like make sure, your garage doors are the right, like he measures them so he can order them correctly. You have to pick out these colors, shapes, glassware in a garage door is so expensive. I didn't do it. Yeah. I was like, I'm not spending $600 on a garage door to have, when I say $600 for a baby window, it's not worth it to me.
No. You don't want any peeping Toms in your garage anywhere.
Well, it's beautiful, but like, I mean, you cannot believe the price of glass.
We don't have windows on our doors either. It's just, we didn't want them.
So that was a whole thing. And
But there's a layering
I
thing.
wasn't aware of wasn't aware of the labor cost with that. So that was like a whole nother thing. I was it wasn't a lot, but I was still shocked. Like it was just like another
$300, $600, more than that.
More than that. But I was like my dad was working at the bank and I was at the Heron Bank that day and I ran out to him. I was like, it's a movie between us two. Dad. He's like, it's fine. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So your garage doors, like you're taking 6 weeks to get ordered. So if you want your house closed up in the winter, well, you got to think about when you're ordering those.
Right.
But your house has to be framed for them to specifically measure. And my measurements on my, one of my big bids was like, they measured my garage door. Like they bid me the wrong garage door size. My garage door is actually bigger. And so it's costing me more money.
Plus the labor.
So I was confused. Yeah. So it was just like, I don't know, stuff like that's irritating.
Yeah.
So you have to order your garage doors, and with the framing, so then your framer is supposed to come back and you have to have, blocking put around your garage doors and your OSB board or your drywall up in your garage for your garage doors to hang on, which brings me back to insulation. You have to get your insulation before you get your drywall or your OSB board up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of layering.
A lot of moving pieces. So right now I'm in the process of getting insulation, but let me back up.
Okay.
Windows, doors are in.
Yeah.
So it's up.
Yeah. Plumbing's in. Bathtubs are in.
Bathtubs are in. So you have 3 major subs that come in after you're in the dry. And so that's your heating and air, your plumbing, and your electrical. And the way that they've told me to think about it is it goes HVAC first, which is your heating and air, and then your plumbing, and then your electrical, because your HVAC is this bag.
It takes up more space.
It's this gigantic thing in your ceiling. And then your plumbing is this big. And then your electrical is this big. And so courtesy is let the big dog go in first, and then plumbing, and then electrical. Now mine was my plumber just decided to go first. I don't know. And it ended up being okay with the way my house was set up. But if I build a house again, I will for sure
call your HVAC man
and make sure he can go do it first.
Okay.
So those are your 3 subs that you're kind of working with at that time point to get those things put in. And that's called your rough-in stage.
Rough-in.
So you get all that roughed in. So you get your bathtubs roughed in, and then your plumbing. You get your HVAC roughed in. So he walks through your house with you and tells you where he's going to put all your vents. And that was funny. I was like, that's ugly where it is. He's like, you have to put it over a window. That's where your like heat and your cooling come out. And I'm like, but I think that's ugly. He's like, you have to. Yeah, you're on a slab, so you can't put your vents in the floor.
Yeah.
You have to put them in the ceiling. And so it's so weird, like why things are where they are. Like it has so much to do with like your foundation. I never thought my foundation would affect what my HVAC is going to look like. Yeah. All of it works together. It's like the human body. It all works together.
Work together for sure.
Yeah.
So are you further than so you're working on the HVAC and electric right now, right?
No, my HVAC and my electric and my plumbing is all in. So it is all roughed in. Now I am ready for insulation.
Okay.
And so they are going to insulate my house. And so I'm going to get all the pink stuff in my walls and going to get spray foam in my roof, because that seems to be the more energy efficient way now.
Yeah, heat rises, right?
Yes.
You got to keep that in the house or out.
Yeah. So insulation's a big deal. It's important. My insulation guy has been like so great. I mean, it's really interesting how the trades are like knowledgeable of each other.
Right.
But a lot of these guys build spec homes. And so they kind of know the order of things and like what you should use. But I think for the most part, they've been really great with me and about just being honest, like, and having I literally call these people. I say, I'm a girl. I don't know. And I'm like, is batting the pink stuff? And he's like, yes, it's the pink fluffy itchy stuff. Like, you know, it's just so funny. So I'm working on getting my insulation. Once your insulation's done, you can get drywall. Okay. Well, drywall's really expensive. So I'm in the process of deciding like, well, I'm not going to hang my drywall, but am I going to paint my house myself? Right. Like, am I going to have a paint party? Because, you know, that's just what my budget might allow for. So it's just a lot of like moving pieces, and like at the same time, I'm paying people out of my loan now. Right. And we can kind of get into that process. But for where my house is right now, building wise, that's like where I'm at. Yeah. Working on a few things. Ordering cabinetry right now. Cabinetry and all the other appliances probably soon. Toilets, all that good stuff. Yep. Sinks. Yep. All comes soon. Yep. Exciting, Ashley. So now I want to talk about the way a construction loan works. So my first thing that I put on my construction loan was my concrete. And so they sent me a bill. It was either in the mail or email. I can't remember. It's so funny the way some of these people will text you and be like, this is what you owe me. And I'm like, I think I need an official invoice. Is this an invoice or is this a text message? I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna text you back. I don't think you know my email, but this doesn't work with my accountant. Yeah. Can you please give me a real invoice? And sometimes on a serious note, like it doesn't. They're, you know, your bank's probably really like, I don't accept that. I need a legitimate invoice or email. And so you get your invoice, and you know, sometimes it'll say due upon receipt or due net 30, you know, it's due in 30 days, whatever. And so I have a big binder, and I keep tabs and dates on when I have bills to pay, because, you know, all these companies are kind of like a bank. If you don't pay, they're going to start charging you interest. Right. And then you're just paying for something you didn't even. For fees and all that good stuff. So. Yeah. But it's been really easy to borrow money, to say the least. So I just send my invoice to Polly, which is my lender, and she fills out an advance form, is what it's called, and just says for how much money I need. And so then she direct deposits that money. She credits my construction deposit account with that amount of money. And then my loan will also show up with that amount of money. Okay. So I'm indebted to the bank, but I'm credited this money to pay. And so what I've been doing, I find the easiest way is to just send Polly an invoice, and then she puts this money into my construction account. I go to a teller and I say, I need you to get me a cashier's check with that amount to this person. Can you give me a cashier's check? They give it to me. I put it in an envelope. I put a lien waiver in there that they have to sign with the dollar amount on there with a return envelope, mail it to them. Oh, interesting. They get their check. They send me my lien waiver back. Polly files it. I'm good to go and borrow money on my next thing. Have you ever ran into where the contractor has not signed a lien waiver and given it back to you right away? No, they're so used to it. Yeah. I mean, I imagine people have, but everybody I work with is like a very legitimate contractor, insured. And a lot of them have to come back and get and finish their job to pay and get their second payout. Like they'll do their jobs in sections. And so, you know, I haven't had any trouble. They've always mailed it back. And I think probably I know this sounds little, but sending a return envelope with a stamp on it just makes it easier for them to like do that. Or if I've met with them at my house, like I've given them the cashier's check and we go through the step and then they just sign off on it. Like it's a very easy process. And I was probably most worried about that when I got started. I was like, I don't know, I'm going to get these people to sign off on this waiver. You hear all these horror stories of people starting something and then leaving a job and never coming back, and they've ran off with the money. I mean, you hear about this happening all the time. It does. So it's kind of another, you know, if I was doing something, that would be a fear of mine. It's a safeguard for sure. And so I'll say this, if I back up, my stuff that I paid, if I paid a contractor out of pocket with like out of my money, Ashley McVicker's money, not from my loan, I still had them sign a lien waiver. Yeah, that's good. Because, you know, who knows if they could come back and say, well, you didn't pay me. A lot of them will give you a receipt. Like a receipt is, you know, you need a receipt and then get your lien waiver signed. But that part has been pretty easy. That's good to hear. Borrowing the money. It's getting there, Ashley. It's getting there. So exciting. It's the winter months, and so it's cold. I'm trying to get my house like super closed up so we can start doing the interior stuff
And we just went through the holidays, which I'm sure December was not an easy time to get contractors.
No, and I was in Florida.
Stick to their, you just had a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I know I did a little drive-by to check on your house, and I sent you a picture. I was like, is there supposed to be somebody working on this? You're out of town. Is this okay?
Yeah. No. It's my electrician. Oh, so funny. And so, I'm working on getting siding on my house right now, so it'll be pretty, and
it'll look almost complete.
Yeah, but the inside right now is very cold and dark.
Well, soon enough.
Soon enough.
But thank you. This has been good. Anything else you want to say before we close this out about update on your house?
Oh, it's just if you're going to do it, like, it's not that bad, but you gotta be organized and like on the ball. I mean, I think I started this process literally a year ago, not the actual building, but the getting my house plans, and and that stuff takes a long time to finalize, because that's really important, where you're putting stuff in your house and how big your house is going to be, and then getting the bids and applying for the loan. Like, this has taken longer than I thought. If I did this again, I could probably bust it out way sooner, just because I would know the intricacies of building it and when certain things have to happen, because there were probably a lot more little things that have to be done that I just like forgot about that. Now I know, but I know the order of things now. Mm-hmm. And you just don't know until you do something. That's right. But it's definitely doable. I'm a 26-year-old gal, and decently smart, got a blue collar dad. I'm still happy with my decision.
Good.
Things are more expensive, but I don't think I made the wrong decision. Like, I'll have a brand new house that will appraise for a pretty decent amount of money, and there's houses that, like, I just saw a house yesterday on the market. It was $112,000 and it was 80 years old.
Yeah. So yours is going to come in.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So I'm happy with my decision. I just want it to get done. Like, it's so exciting. It's so funny how exciting it gets, and then you're like, I've got to wait 3 weeks for that. Like, bummer. But
I'm excited to do this for hopefully our last episode when you're all moved in. Maybe this spring sometime. I don't know, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, your flooring's got to get acclimated. They got to get your drywall dry. A lot of stuff is still has to be done. But hey, I've been, in the meantime, this is a good tip. I guess if I was going to leave everybody with a tip, buy all your stuff that you need for your house, like interior wise, now.
Yeah.
Like, big deals are going, I guess if you're building at this time of year, but just in general, like, you need to be buying couches, rugs.
Well, and people don't realize a lot of couches take 12 weeks to get in.
Oh my God.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Thankfully, I bought mine at an estate sale. Also, estate sales are great.
Yes.
I've learned that. Getting your kitchen stuff, getting, I got a vacuum cleaner for Christmas, and I cried because I was so excited. Yeah. Like, it's stuff like
it's the small things.
Jill bought me these amazing pots and pans. Like, I cried, So it's getting like your interior stuff is crucial now, because you don't want to move in and be like, I can't cook tonight. Right. And then you've got to go.
Well, and here's the thing. When you move out on your own, you're like, oh, it's an $8 can opener, but it's an $8 can, you know what I mean? I need a can opener. There's so much that goes with it.
Yeah, so. I need, all the things your mom has in your house. So, like, Pepto-Bismol and Motrin and all the things you keep in the Band-Aids. Yeah. I'm probably not going to buy that stuff until my arm is falling off. I'm like, okay, I need to keep Band-Aids in my house now, because I'm trying to save $1. But
cute.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you for letting us interview you and hear all about your experience with building your home.
Thank you. You girls can do it. If you want to build a home, call me. I will help you. I'm basically a contractor now, and I know all the ins and outs, and I know all the guys build the stuff.
So if you need any referrals.
If you need a referral, talk to me.
Reach out to Ashley.
Yep, but we will talk to you guys probably closer to March, I guess, if everybody's dying to know a date.
Yes, absolutely.
Closer to March. So.
Yay. Well, thanks, Ashley, and we will see you guys next week.
So, Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.